Nobody says this out loud, so I'll say it. The scariest thing about evil isn't that monsters exist. It's that you don't need to be a monster to become one. You just need to be in the wrong room long enough. In the summer of 1971, 24 perfectly normal American college students walked into a basement at Stanford University. They had been screened for mental health, criminal records, history of violence, the works. They were psychologically indistinguishable from you.
6 days later, some of them were torturing their friends. And the rest? They were watching, taking notes, waiting for their shift to end. If evil is a switch and not a seed, when was the last time you stood right next to a switch? By the time this ends, you'll stop asking what kind of person does evil. You'll start asking what kind of room turns a person like you into that person.
But before we find that switch, you need to understand why psychology spent 50 years looking for monsters in exactly the wrong place. August 14, 1971, Stanford University, California. The air in psychology department smelled like certainty. Evil lived inside people. Period. The Holocaust, German character, serial killers, bad childhoods. If you were good, you stayed good. And if you were bad, a personality test would catch you before you hurt anyone.
The world before that basement believed in bad apples. Psychologists were confident they could spot evil on a Rorschach blot. Prisons were full of defective people, not defective systems. This was the water everyone swam in. Even Stanley Milgram at Yale University had already put that comfort under serious pressure. In 1963, he published his behavioral study of obedience in the Journal of Abnormal and Social Psychology, and the results were devastating. Ordinary people, people like your neighbors, delivered what they believed were lethal electric shocks to a screaming stranger because a man in a lab coat said the experiment required it. 2/3 went all the way to the maximum voltage, but psychology protected its comfort. They called Milgram's subjects weak-willed. They called them exceptions. The idea that evil was a personality type survived, bruised, but breathing. And Philip Zimbardo, a young Stanford professor in his 30s, ambitious, slightly arrogant, completely normal, was about to accidentally destroy that comfort for good. He wasn't trying to. He was studying prison boredom. That's what the grant from the U.S. Office of Naval Research actually paid for. Zimbardo wanted to know what happens when nothing happens in a prison. He built a fake prison in the basement of Jordan Hall. 3 small cells made from converted offices, a solitary closet, a guard's quarters with a sofa and a refrigerator. He put an ad in the Palo Alto Times offering $15 a day for a psychological study of prison life. 75 students answered. 24 were chosen, screened, interviewed, declared normal by every metric psychology had. Then they were randomly assigned by the flip of a coin, guards and prisoners. The violence was supposed to be a side effect, something Zimbardo might note in a footnote. He almost missed it entirely because he wasn't watching the experiment. He was playing the prison superintendent. He reviewed guard reports. He disciplined prisoners who broke rules. He controlled the parole board. He was inside the machine before he knew it was running. And that's the first fact that should stop you cold. The scientist became the system he built. The system didn't care that he had a PhD or that he was a nice guy or that he meant well. The system only cared that he showed up in the right uniform with the right title. The basement was ready. The students were ready. But nobody was ready for what happens when you simply tell a good kid, you are now in charge. And that guy? He has no name anymore. Here's the thing. Nobody on other channels explains properly. The engine of the Lucifer Effect isn't hatred. It's paperwork. It runs on 3 wires, and I guarantee all 3 are live in your life right now. First wire, anonymity. You stop being you and start being your role. A number, a uniform, a username that isn't your name. Research by Philip Zimbardo in 2007, published in The Lucifer Effect by Random House, shows that de-individuation doesn't just reduce your guilt. It replaces your face with a function. You aren't John anymore. You are Guard 3. You aren't Sarah. You are Moderator 47. And Guard 3 does things John would never do, because Guard 3 doesn't have a mother who would recognize him in a photograph. He doesn't have a friend who would ask what he did at work today. Second wire, diffused responsibility. Someone else designed this. You're just following the schedule, just enforcing the policy, just doing your job. This is where Stanley Milgram's 1963 study at Yale University becomes your daily commute. His subjects didn't deliver what they believed were lethal shocks because they were cruel. They delivered them because the responsibility had an address, and the address was the man in the lab coat. Your boss wrote the rule. The algorithm made the decision. The company policy is clear. Your hands are just the delivery system, and the package isn't your problem. Third wire, incremental escalation. It never starts with torture. It starts with a small ask that sounds reasonable. Can you hold this bag over his head for a second? It's just to block the light. Can you make him do 10 push-ups? It's just discipline. Can you keep him awake tonight? It's just protocol. Each step is so small that your brain doesn't trigger an alarm. By the time the alarm should be ringing, you're too far down the road to turn back without admitting you've been walking in the wrong direction for miles. Zimbardo found that the path to cruelty is paved with tiny yeses, not one big no. This is the mechanism Hannah Arendt described in 1963 in Eichmann in Jerusalem, published by Penguin Classics. Evil is banal. It doesn't arrive in a scream. It arrives in a signature, in a checkbox, in a schedule that says count the prisoners at 2 in the morning, because the schedule says so. But here's the detail that separates this channel from everyone else who tells the Stanford story. The good guards, the ones who didn't abuse prisoners. They never stopped the ones who did. They did their shifts, went home, said nothing. Their silence poured the concrete. Evil doesn't need volunteers. It needs witnesses who stay quiet because it's not my shift. Because I don't want to make things weird. Because I'm just trying to get to 5 o'clock. The good guards weren't evil. They were polite. They brought prisoners food. They avoided the worst rooms. But politeness in the presence of cruelty is not goodness. It's complicity with better manners. Zimbardo noted that none of the good guards ever called in sick to protest. None ever walked out. They stayed, they watched, they collected their $15 a day, and their paychecks bought the silence that the bad guards needed. And the consequence? The prisoners didn't break because of pain. They broke because of arbitrary rules. The human mind can withstand predictable cruelty. What shatters it is random control, meaningless orders that prove you have zero agency. Lights on at 2 in the morning, counts at random hours, rules that change without warning. Zimbardo found that hopelessness is more destructive than violence. A predictable beating tells you where you stand. An arbitrary rule tells you that you don't stand anywhere at all. You feel this every time you put on a uniform, a job title, a moderator badge, or even a different username online. You're not wearing a costume. The costume is wearing you. And if you think this is just a 1971 basement story, wait until you see what the US military found 30 years later in a real prison with real adults and a digital camera that proved Zimbardo right in ways that make the basement look like a rehearsal. Philip Zimbardo, 1971, Stanford University. But the story that matters belongs to Douglas Corpy, prisoner 8612, and Christina Maslach, the psychologist who ended the nightmare, 24 students, randomly assigned. Prisoners were arrested at home by real Palo Alto police cars with real handcuffs while real neighbors watched from windows. They were booked at the station, fingerprinted, strip-searched, then delivered to the basement. Smocks with no underwear, a chain on the ankle, a nylon stocking over the head, numbers instead of names. Guards were given sunglasses, anonymity, wooden batons, khaki uniforms. No training, no rules against force, just power, and a schedule. Day 1, awkward laughter. The guards read the rules. The prisoners joke about the smocks. Everyone is still playing a game. Day 2, the prisoners rebel. They block their cell doors with beds. They tear off their numbers. They curse the guards. The guards panic. Then they retaliate. Fire extinguishers sprayed into locked cells. The solitary closet, a broom closet with no light, forced push-ups, jumping jacks, counts in the middle of the night, every 2 hours. Day 3, Douglas Corpy screams. He demands release. He cries. He tells Zimbardo he can't take it. Zimbardo, playing superintendent, tells him it's an experiment, he can quit. Corpy says he can't. He needs the money. He has signed a contract. He believes his own arrest was real. The fiction became his reality, and Zimbardo almost let him rot in the fiction because the data was flowing and the guards were getting creative. Day 5. The guards force prisoners to simulate sex acts. They make them clean toilets with bare hands. They humiliate them for sport. They remove mattresses so prisoners sleep on concrete. And then Christina Maslach walks in for a visit. She sees boys with bags over their heads, chains on their feet, crying, while guards laugh and snack on sandwiches. She looks at Zimbardo, her boyfriend, the scientist, the man who designed this, and she says, "What you're doing to those boys is terrible." Zimbardo realizes he isn't observing the prison anymore. He is the prison. The experiment was planned for 14 days. It ended after 6. Not because of the data, not because of a safety protocol, because of a woman who refused to become a quiet witness. In 2019, French academic Thibault Letexier published a critical analysis in American Psychologist, Volume 74, Issue 7, pages 823 to 839. He argued that some participants may have been acting, that the guards received subtle coaching, that Zimbardo's own involvement contaminated the data. But here's what even the harshest critique doesn't erase.
The experiment was stopped because a psychologist saw suffering and couldn't unsee it. And the real prisons of the world didn't need a perfect study to produce the same result. They just needed the same 3 wires. Evil isn't a character flaw, it's a social lubricant. Given the right system, the right uniform, the right anonymity, the right incremental permission, good people will oil the machine with other people's suffering. But here's the part that turns psychology into horror. The US government didn't learn from Stanford. They built a real basement, called it Abu Ghraib, and then hired Zimbardo to explain why everyone was acting surprised. Abu Ghraib, 2003, Iraq, digital cameras, the photos leak, Lindy, England, Charles Grainer, naked prisoners stacked in human pyramids, stress positions, leashes around necks, dogs snarling in doorways. A prisoner standing on a box with wires attached to his fingers, told he'll be electrocuted if he steps off. The military calls it a few bad apples, just isolated incidents. Zimbardo is called as an expert witness for Sergeant Ivan Frederick. He walks the court through the same 3 wires. Anonymity. The guards worked night shifts, no names, no accountability.
Diffused responsibility. The intelligence officers told them to soften the prisoners up. They were just following the flow of orders. Incremental escalation. It started with sleep deprivation, then stress positions, then dogs, then the photographs. The same basement. Real blood, real prisoners, real dead bodies. What was lost? Your illusion of moral superiority. Before 1971, the world slept comfortably believing evil was a personality type you could spot across a room and avoid. After Abu Ghraib, psychology had to accept that evil is an address, and that address is available for rent by anyone who walks into the wrong system with the right uniform. What was gained? A new question. Zimbardo spent the rest of his life not studying evil. He studied heroism, the Heroic Imagination Project. He stopped asking, why do bad people do evil? He started asking, why don't good people stop it? In 2006, Stephen Riker and Alexander Haslam published a rethinking of the psychology of tyranny in the British Journal of Social Psychology, Volume 45, Issue 1, pages 1 to 40. Their BBC prison study showed that prisoners with shared identity can resist. That tyranny isn't inevitable when people remember they are people. But that resistance is fragile, and the system knows it. Which is why the first thing any system does is separate you from the person next to you. And the irony? The same U.S. Office of Naval Research that funded the original Stanford experiment in 1973, documented by Haney, Banks, and Zimbardo in Naval Research Reviews, Volume 9, pages 1 through 17, later paid Zimbardo to explain why their own prison produced the exact result his study predicted. Zimbardo built a warning sign in 1971. Then the world built the exact highway it warned about. You don't need Abu Ghraib. You need a group chat where nobody uses real names. A job where you're just following policy. A moment where you have a little power over someone who has none. A customer who needs you more than you need them. A subordinate who can't say no. And the slow, boring, everyday escalation of it's just a joke until someone breaks. Psychology didn't discover that humans are evil. It discovered that evil is a place, not a person. And the most terrifying thing about that place is how close it is to your daily commute. It's the meeting room where nobody questions the decision. It's the thread where everyone piles on the same target. It's the shift where you see something wrong and calculate the cost of saying something right. If you believe you'd be the one who speaks up, the Christina Maslock in the room, ask yourself, when was the last time you spoke up when there was something to lose? Not online. Not when it was easy. Not when everyone already agreed with you. When there was something to lose. A friendship, a promotion, your place in the group. Because the system doesn't test your goodness. It tests your price. And the price is always smaller than you think. Think of the last time you had even tiny power over someone. A customer service call, a subordinate at work, a comment section, a group chat where you knew everyone would agree with you. What did you do with that power that you wouldn't have done as an equal? The devil isn't inside you. He just rents the space whenever you stop looking in the mirror.